So Yorgos, you just got your first Oscar nomination for your work on The Favorite. You've been a frequent presence on Yorgos Lanthimos' movies, I think just about from the very beginning. This film has kind of exploded in terms of Oscar recognition to nominations, critical acclaim, box office. Why do you think this movie, struck such a chord with, audiences and critics and awards bodies?
Well, believe me, I was expecting it from Yorgos, as a matter of fact, because if you follow his career, we started with Dogtooth, and Dogtooth was nominated for the Oscars for the Best Foreign Film, and also later The Lobster. I was nominated for the ACE Awards on The Lobster, and also the script was nominated. And yes, this kind of this favorite is, of course, more accessible than our other films, because it's not like we use it was not a Themis' scripts, which are a bit different from this one. It was a more mainstream film. The actresses are great. The setting, the historical fact, I think it had all these ingredients that made it more easy to gain these awards or nominations, sorry.
And The Favorite has a very specific dark comedic tone, even though it deals with some heavy themes about like love and betrayal and envy and things like that. I think that tone kind of separates it from a lot of the royal costume dramas of its type. Were there concerns along the way about making sure the film doesn't get too absurd, or on like the other end of the spectrum gets too weighed down in the emotional drama? How important was it for you to just strike that specific tone?
On the contrary, I think Yorgos was working on this script for about 8 years, and I think his aim was to make it a Lanthimos film, to have these dark undertones, because these are the themes that he is interested in doing. So the concern in the editing was to make that transition, because if you notice, it starts on a very light comedy, bright colors, and slowly it goes down into the more darkest areas. So our concern was to make this balance fluid, if you say, not to be so. And also, yes, we, as a matter of fact, we were not frightened, but we did think about the end, how people would react to it. But I think in the end, all went well, because yes, there is a darker side to our love affairs as well, and it's the truth. So it was accepted.
One of the things, talking to other people who've worked on this movie, like the writer Tony McNamara and the production designer Fiona Crombie, they all talked about trying to create a sense of modernness to the film, even though it's set in a period. Did that extend to your work as well?
I think it had to extend, since all the lenses and the modernity of the dance. The edit was also quite. It was not a descriptive editing to explain to you about the plot. We used, of course, old techniques as well, but in a new way. We did a lot of dissolves to try to break down this idea of the dissolve was, as an aesthetic means or passing of time. No, it had some narrative value. And also we used a lot of montage sequence, but not in the sense of, time is passing, but to make it clear that this is the way Lanthimos wants us to perceive the film, not only plot-wise, but to have his own interpretation of the event shown to the audience. So you will have noticed a lot of cuts between, breaking the time and space continuum. Although it was shot, because Yorgos always shoots his films in a classical way, meaning that he respects when he shoots the time and space continuum, but in the edit, we deconstruct that and we try to construct different narration. For example, the script started as a plot directed and also character directed, because it started with Abigail going to the palace. So you tend to follow the hero. It's in our way of watching films, but we changed this beginning by by bringing forward the scene between Anna and Sarah when they talk about love. So we wanted the audience to understand that this would be not a historical film about Abigail and the situation, but about how three women experience love. So the modernity also comes because we can relate to it as human beings in this time.
Right.
And this is also a film where how you feel about the three main characters, I think, really changes over time, especially as Abigail sort of rises in favor and Sarah falls from grace, I guess you could say. Are there examples of choices you made as an editor while editing the film that kind of helped create those big character arcs and play with how the audience feels about these characters?
Right. Yes, we do have this philosophy, Lanthimos and me. I think we tend to be somehow existentialist in the sense that we do accept the human beings first as beings, and then as a character, and then as queen or policeman or whatever. So the decisions we made was to deconstruct a bit this plot thing that, okay, here we have to do with the situation all about Eve. A woman comes and breaks the relation of the other two. No, we wanted to concentrate on the three women in the time process of how they feel love and what changes they experience during this process. And also this allowed a lot of depth in their character. It was not like a one-sided character. Okay, this is Abigail. She has this aim to get it. No, she was also playful. Sarah also, although she represented a very hard phase of her character in the beginning, towards the end you can see her sensitivities. The queen also, she had a very, she starts more joyful, and also due to her disease is disintegrating all the time, and all this had to in the end to be one, like this image in the end, the two faces dissolving and rabbits. We wanted to represent their conscious moment of the conscious realization of the situation in a very bad way, in the sense that they use their time, and that was it. Whatever we do, there are repercussions because we cannot repeat it. So it's just a moment of being inside you and thinking, what was the point? What did I, for Abigail, what was the point? Okay, I gained, and so what? And then for the queen, what was this? And it's all these are very inexpressible, but the Coleman's close up in the end, and Abigail and Stone's close up in the end are very expressive in themselves. It's explained, I think.
From a time perspective and also from a narrative perspective, you have these three protagonists, and they're all more or less sort of on equal footing. Was it difficult for you to find the correct balance between all of their, I guess, storylines and screen time and things
It's
like that?
very difficult because it was very easy to leave it on the script level, on the plot level, that okay, we have a character, protagonist, Abigail, people go with her, and she has her adventures and is happily, she gains or whatever. No, we had to balance it from the beginning, and but it was so rich from the shooting, so its characters, all three of them, was just, as you say, a matter of balancing, taking out some of the scheming from the beginning, not to be so sure about what happens, and also to create this ambiguity, which is very characteristic of human nature. We're not one thing. It's you cannot know a person, from Citizen Kane. You just interpret them in your terms, but human beings are very unpredictable, and our motives sometimes are unexplained. It's not like we have a clear motive and we pursue some aim. It's more kind of ambiguity and how can I say, being free to be a person, first of all. Like, for example, there's this scene with Abigail and Massam. It wouldn't be so nice if you made it like it looked like, okay, Abigail needs this guy to get married so she can rise in statue and stuff like that. No, she was a girl playing in the woods with him and stuff, things like that. To be in the moment, not to have, okay, I will do this because of this. They had to be present in what they were doing.
And without giving too much away about the ending, I did want to talk a little bit about this ending scene, which features some superimposing of characters and rabbits, we'll say. Was it a difficult process just figuring out, first of all, how to craft the proper ending to the film, but also how long to sustain each of these long takes and knowing when to cut to a new shot and how to layer these different shots on top of each other?
Yes, it was a long procedure, technically mainly. Also, in the end, yes, there was a matter of choosing what sorts of the Queen and what sorts of Abigail. But from the beginning, when I watched the assembly, because I went after they did the assembly, I did get the mainly Lanthimos moment in life. So, you are successful, and that's how I felt it. So what now? So I did get this idea now to build it up with the rabbits. After one of our screenings very early on, he said, okay, let's try to do something like that with the rabbits. Of course, this idea was difficult to work because there were 3 or 4 shots of rabbits we could use from the footage. But when we started, superimposing, repeating them, making a loop of their movements to indicate the habits of our how things move without us understanding. And then we had to ask the post-production guys to shoot more shots in a black background or in a blue background, and it took us for about, I think, 2 months to be satisfied with how the dissolve between, even the decision was difficult, and it took us some time to say, okay, do we finish with Abigail or do we finish with Anne? The first idea was to finish, of course, with Abigail, but then we did change, and I think it adds a big layer to this simple change, because yes, we do get Abigail's in her eye and in her expression that, okay, I'm here, but is that what I'm going to expect from now on? But then the Queen's face was more, it added to this, and not, because if we did it the other way around, it would be somehow redundant, or all of it would be taken over by the close-up of the Queen. So we did that change, and technically, I'm telling you, since this is like an art, a picture that a rabbit comes in, how he comes in, how long does he stay, how long does he make this movement, how many rabbits in the end. It took us about 2 months with working with Screenshot in Ireland, the post-production house, to be satisfied with the final result.
You've worked with Yorgos Lanthimos pretty much since the very beginning of his filmmaking career, and I think you've worked on all of his movies. What makes that relationship work? How has that relationship grown since the first movie to this one?
Yes, as you say, it was a relation. I mean, Yorgos, I used to work with Yorgos a lot. We met when we did a lot of commercial in Greece, and I was one of the 2 maybe editors that he would like to work. He's a very demanding person. So I started with him with Kineta, our first film, which was a very low budget film. It was about 16 pages, the script, and very improvised, everything. And as you say, it became a relationship. So we evolved that kind of understanding between us. We did have our first code of communication, basically on the second film, Dogtooth. And Yorgos is a very demanding person. He demands a lot of himself, and also he demands a lot of his from the crew he works with. But one basic thing that he does want is for you to be creative. He doesn't want the usual thing. With all the films, we have to exert ourselves to make ourselves better. And also working with him, I do understand, or I'm in a position to understand now his language, his words, how he thinks and what he would like. That doesn't mean that we have shortcuts that this is the way we do it. No, every film is an adventure. We have to somehow rediscover it from the beginning, working on certain unwritten rules, which allow me also, this is the important thing for me, a great freedom of expression, because the way we work, we make notes and stuff like that. So, but I can stay. He gives me a week to do the notes and also suggest things. So yes, I do feel a lot of creative freedom working with him. Although his environment, his work is very specific.
All right. Well, Yorgos, thank you so much. Congratulations on the Oscar nomination, and of course,
thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.